And I want to welcome you. And first, huge thanks to the UK government for hosting this event in partnership with the Circular Bioeconomy Alliance, of which I am deeply honored to be the chair. We're delighted that you've joined us. Thank you very much. As we focus on the COP28 Presidency's priority to put nature, people, and livelihoods at the heart of climate action, and not too soon. We know that nature and the circular bioeconomy it empowers represents the world's most precious economic asset, with a critical role to play in the transition to a net zero, climate positive, and inclusive economy. When properly valued by economic systems, nature's benefits can help to address the global and international crises of climate change and biodiversity loss. Today, we'll hear from leading voices on how we can unlock this potential through action on the ground which restores harmony between humanity, nature, and the environment. Specifically, through new partnerships among local and indigenous communities, corporations, scientific organizations, and scientific bodies and public bodies. By considering the challenges and opportunities related to scaling up nature-based solutions and regenerative value chains, we'll explore how the circular bioeconomy can secure sustainable livelihoods, empowering communities. It's my great pleasure and honor to introduce Yankar Domingo Pease. Forgive me if I have butchered your name, and I apologize if I have, Domingo, a well-known indigenous leader from the Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities of the Ecuadorian Amazon. Domingo will share his views on the key role that indigenous communities play in catalyzing a new economy, a circular bioeconomy that works in symbiosis with nature, and a new economy that the CBA is advocating strongly for. Domingo's long collaborated with the CBA, and our CEO, Marc Palahí, visited Domingo's community in the heart of the Amazon so that we can develop a better understanding of their challenges and their vision. We'll then hear from Marc, who'll then elaborate on the imperative behind the transition to a circular bioeconomy. What this means in practice, how the CBA is contributing to those efforts, and how they can be scaled to meet global ambitions being agreed by the world's leaders here today. And after that, we'll have a panel discussion before I close, and then we have a reception. Domingo, welcome.
Tú vas a traducir, ¿no? ¿Estás lista?
Yeah.
Hola, buenas tardes, queridas amigas, hermanas que están aquí presentes, también a los hombres que están acompañando aquí a gran propósito.
Good afternoon to everyone this afternoon for being here with us. Thank you. And especially thank you to all of the women leaders and the great men who are accompanying them.
Realmente estoy muy agradecido por este pabellón que ha organizado el gobierno de Inglaterra.
I'm grateful for the UK government for organizing this great event at this pavilion.
También, ¿por qué no felicitar y agradecer al rey de Inglaterra por crear este programa que es interés de todos los seres humanos?
And while we're at it, I'd like to recognize and thank King Charles, His Majesty, for having created the Circular Bioeconomy Alliance, because this is in the interest of all humanity, all life.
Y agradecer al mar por estar ese puente, por hacer este puente que realmente el ser humano necesita hoy como nunca.
And I want to especially thank Marc Palahí for being a bridge, because humanity in this moment needs bridges like you, like never before.
Y también, ¿por qué no felicitar a Hindou, su presencia aquí, una mujer muy fuerte y de mucho corazón?
And while I'm here, I want to also recognize the amazing work of Hindou, Ibrahim, who is a strong woman and who's working with all her heart, making a huge difference.
Estoy aquí en representación de la Amazonía, no solo de Ecuador, Perú, sino de toda la Amazonía existente en este planeta.
I'm here not only in the representation of the Ecuadorian Peruvian Amazon, but I'm here to represent the Amazon, the entire Amazon basin and tropical rainforests all over the planet.
¿Por qué no decir que la Amazonía somos nosotros? Que la Amazonía es un ser vivo, que la Amazonía es lo que nos da vida a toda la sociedad.
Because we are the Amazon, indigenous peoples are the Amazon, that the Amazon and forests everywhere are alive, and that life on planet Earth is made possible because of the tropical rainforests.
Nosotros, como indígenas, tenemos esa conexión espiritual que todo ser humano necesita.
Indigenous peoples, we have this spiritual connection to nature, but all humans need this connection.
Y estoy aquí para compartir, para aprender y llegar con nuestro mensaje.
I'm here to share, to learn, and to basically make sure our message is transmitted.
¿Por qué no decir, estoy muy agradecido por escucharme, por estar aquí, para hacer nuevo camino para la próxima generación?
I'm grateful you're here, listening and learning, and also helping to chart a new path forward for the future generations.
Los indígenas conservamos el 80% selva intacta.
Indigenous peoples are protecting 80% of the intact forests.
Por suerte, como somos parte, hasta ahora seguimos cuidando para que esta Amazonía no llegue al punto de no retorno.
And while we're there, we're fighting to protect this territory, and we're working to prevent the Amazon from reaching a point of no return.
Todo el mundo discute sobre cambio climático. Todo el mundo habla de transición ecológica. Todos estamos casi entendiendo lo que hay que hacer.
The entire world is speaking about the climate crisis. We're all thinking about the ecological transition and wondering what we must do.
Pero aún nos falta conocer más. Los indígenas, no indígenas.
But we still have a long way to go for indigenous and the non-indigenous to know one another, to understand one another.
Nos toca crear confianza
We have
entre
to build
indígenas no indígenas.
trust between the indigenous and the non-indigenous.
Nosotros entramos y felicitamos a la bioeconomía circular.
We are inviting in and congratulating the Circular Bioeconomy Alliance.
Es el próximo paso que hay que dar todo ser humano.
This is the next place where we must all go, to this idea of a circular regenerative economy.
El combustible fósil está terminando.
And we have to end with the use of fossil fuels.
Nos estamos destruyendo nosotros mismos.
We are self-destructive right now in our planet.
Entonces, antes que termine todo, nos toca preparar.
Before we end with the living systems of the planet, we have to prepare,
Crear nuevo camino.
Chart new paths.
Pero no solo ustedes ni nosotros solo.
But not you on your own and us out there on our own.
Tenemos que hacer juntos.
We have to do it together.
Eso es el nuevo camino que hay que hacerlo.
And this is the only way forward in charting the new path.
Invitado a todo el mundo.
I'm inviting the world.
Ahora tenemos que sentar.
We have to sit together.
Empresas públicas, privadas, personas naturales, mujeres, hombres, indígenas, no indígenas, tenemos que sentar ahora.
We have to sit at the same table, Indigenous, the non-Indigenous, private sector, investors, government, and women, men, young people. We must work together.
Todo éxito de la próxima generación depende de todos nosotros.
The future survival and the success of future generations to exist depend on our actions today.
Entonces, yo no quiero quitarles más tiempo, más bien quisiera decir, hagamos acción, ya no más discurso, vamos a hacer acciones en los territorios, vamos a crear conciencia en la humanidad. Eso es el paso número 2 que toca hacer ahora.
The second phase after building trust is to work for action in the territories, action on the front lines, not just discourse. The time is running out for discourse. We need to take action, action that affects and reaches the territories.
La hermana hindú ahora dijo, ¿dónde está esos 1.7 millones de dólares? ¿Dónde está? Preguntó. Nosotros estamos escuchando millones de dólares, pero en los territorios nunca llega esos millones. Nosotros cuidamos de corazón, de amor, la Amazonía porque es nuestra vida.
I heard Hindou speak about the $1.7 billion that was pledged to indigenous peoples, but I have to say this money is not reaching the front lines. We have to make sure the funding makes it to the front lines because the indigenous peoples, we are the ones that are working and fighting to protect these territories, to protect life on this planet.
Entonces, abrir nuestra mente, abrir nuestro corazón. Todo trabajo hacemos con amor para llegar al éxito.
And we have to open our minds, we have to open our hearts. All the work we do, we have to do with our hearts, with love, so that we can have a success.
Muchos indígenas hemos creado programas. Los indígenas de Perú, Ecuador, hemos creado una fundación indígena que se llama Cuencas Sagradas, que estamos protegiendo 35 millones de hectáreas.
Indigenous peoples in Ecuador and Peru have banded together. We've created an indigenous fund, indigenous organization that's led by us to permanently protect 35 million hectares. It's called the Amazon Sacred Headwaters Bioregion and Alliance.
Esto es hacer un puente, canalizar los fondos directo a los territorios.
It's so
Yo
that we
quiero
can be,
ser puente de ustedes para el mundo indígena. Y ustedes deben ser puente para mí, para el mundo moderno.
I'm here to be a bridge to the indigenous world. We have created a bridge so that you can directly support the front lines in programs that are helping to protect forest. And you need us as bridge to the indigenous world, and we need you as a bridge to the modern world, the non-indigenous world.
Gracias por escucharme, mujeres, hombres, de todo corazón. Mil gracias.
Thank you, everyone, for listening with all my heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Domingo. It's so inspiring to be your friend, Domingo. Thank you so much for coming here. Amelia, thank you very much for chairing our first CBA event as a charity. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome, everybody. And let me particularly thank our founder members that are today gathering together for the first time, LVMH, AstraZeneca, and Lombard Odier, of course. As Amelia mentioned before, I would like to share with all of you a few reflections on why it's so imperative that we move towards a circular bioeconomy. And the answer is very simple, because our current system, functioning under an extractive fossil-based economy, has reached its limits. We have not only changed the climate of our planet, but we are crossing its resilience boundaries due to the massive loss of biodiversity and the degradation of our natural ecosystems. Basically, we have reached a tipping point. We have reached a tipping point. And we need to rethink our economy if we want to rewrite the future still on time. And when I say rethinking our economy, it means transforming the economy. It means moving from an economy powered by fossil resources that has developed at the expense of nature towards an economy that is powered by nature and prospers in harmony with nature, as His Majesty King Charles mentioned yesterday in his speech. And moving towards an economy powered by nature is fundamental to change the thermodynamics of the planet and avoid a planetary system-level failure. Let me explain you why, because this is very fundamental to why we need to move towards a circular bioeconomy. During the last 100 years, we moved from an open economic system powered by the sun, unlimited source of renewable energy, towards a closed system powered by finite fossil non-renewable resources. The second law of thermodynamics is very clear about what happened with free energy, and we have liberated a lot of energy in a closed system. It results in irreversibility, destruction, disorder, and entropy. So now we have entered into a vicious cycle that has resulted in the interconnected climate and biodiversity crisis. And we don't have any other option than to change back the thermodynamics of the planet. And to do that, the only scalable strategy that we have is nature. Because remember one thing, very simple but very important thing. Nature is the interface between us and the sun. Nature, through photosynthesis, translates solar energy into renewable biochemical energy that we can use in a sustainable way across the entire economy if we use a circular and regenerative approach. So this is basically what a circular bioeconomy is. It's an economy where life becomes its true engine and purpose. So let me emphasize three aspects, three principles for a successful transition towards a circular bioeconomy. The first, very important one, in a circular bioeconomy, biodiversity becomes its ultimate engine, because biodiversity is a prerequisite for life to adapt and evolve in a changing environment. And remember, in nature, the only permanent thing is change. So biodiversity is basically the life insurance of life. Investing in biodiversity is the best insurance for the future economy, to keep it resilient, to keep it adaptable to a future that we still don't know how it will look like. So this is the first aspect. Second, nature is complex, but we should not make it complicated. These are two different things. To avoid making nature complicated, we need to use a science-based approach, an approach that needs to also include the ancestral knowledge from indigenous communities, indigenous people and local communities that has been living in harmony for thousands of years. So we need to connect the dots between scientific and ancestral knowledge. Now the good news. The good news is that now we have the technologies to be able to translate this scientific ancestral knowledge into tools to better understand our impacts, positive and negative, towards nature. We have the capacity now, through digital technologies and advanced scientific tools, to be able to quantify and characterize the flow of ecosystem services resulting from nature-based solutions, which are the anchor for circular bioeconomy value chains. And this is very important in order to scale investments, because we need to quantify in order to make nature-based solutions investable, to make it liquid in a financial point of view, And this is very important because now we have the technology to be able to quantify and therefore be able to scale up investments from philanthropic projects to the fund level. This is the second aspect, but the good news are not over yet, because now we have also the technologies to transform sustainably biological resources into a totally new range of bio-based solutions that can replace and environmentally outperform fossil products from all sectors of the economy: food, pharma, fashion, construction, packaging, transport. So we have the technology. The knowledge is there. The solutions are there. Everything that is made out of oil today can be made with the new technologies by bio-based solutions, biological resources. The challenge now is to scale all these technologies at the laboratory level to the scale of the economy. And this is the challenge. And this connects me to my third point, my last point. A circular bioeconomy is about investing in nature to transform our economy rather than to offset for its failure. A circular bioeconomy is not about offsetting, it's about transforming. This is very important. Otherwise, it's not going to be a circular bioeconomy. We will be just compensating for the broken linear fossil economy. So in summary, a circular bioeconomy should be biodiversity-based, science, knowledge intense, and transformation driven. These are the three important aspects to remember. And just to finish saying that I believe personally that the circular bioeconomy is the greatest business opportunity of the 21st century. I don't have any doubt. Remember, in the next 20 years, we need to put forward the greatest economic transformation in human history. If you look at the scale and speed of change we need to put forward to get a net zero, nature positive, and inclusive economy. But the circular bioeconomy, and I want to quote His Majesty King Charles, the circular bioeconomy is also the greatest opportunity we have to realize, to understand that nature does not belong to us. We belong to nature. So, thank you very much.
Can I ask my panelists to come up to the stage? I'd like to thank Marc for your comments and your visionary leadership with the Circular Bioeconomy Alliance. And I also want to thank Domingo for his powerful remarks and reminders of exactly what we need to do if we're going to succeed with this important initiative. And Atossa, thank you for brilliant translation. Really, really, very. Actually, let's have a hand for translation. It's never easy. Right. We're going to try and canter through this quite quickly. Now, we heard to my panelists, what I'd like to do first is have them, because they could do it far better than I, starting with Yunwen, moving this way. Could you just briefly introduce yourself to the audience? Can you hear in the back? Yes, sort of.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. This is Yunwen. I'm working with IFS, short for the Institute of Finance and Sustainability. We are the Beijing-based think tank to advance green finance. Nice to meet you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Hélène Valade. I'm in charge of the environmental strategy for the group LVMH.
And I'm Hubert Keller. I'm the senior managing partner of Lombard Odier. We are an investment firm based out in Switzerland and very focused on sustainable investing.
Hello, can you hear me? Excellent. My name's Juliette White. I lead sustainability for AstraZeneca. We're a UK-based pharmaceutical company.
Hi, let me compete a little bit. So, my name is Hindou Oumarou Ibrahim. I'm a Bororo woman from Chad, an indigenous woman and co-chair of the International Indigenous People Forum on Climate Change and coordinator of Indigenous Women and People Association of Chad.
So yes, last evening I was at the local cities event that Bloomberg sponsored. Can you hear? There we go. Thank you. Anyway, the panel was, the best panel was 5 women. All from the last panelist, wait for it, Hubert, I'm getting there. The last panelist was a woman from the Philippines, from the biggest city in the Philippines, a mayor. They were all mayors. And she said, this is the first panel in the history of COP that is only women. She got a standing ovation. Now, I'm not asking you to do that here, but I would say 5 out of 6 is pretty good. Sorry, Hubert. Unless you want to wear a skirt. Right. We heard Marc talk about the need to recognize nature's transformative role in rethinking our economy. It is imperative, it seems to me, that corporates, and includes the financial sector, ensure that nature is not just part of an offsetting strategy, but it's actually integral to how you drive your business, and it's a key engine and strategy for aligning your business. So I'm going to start with Juliette, if I may. AstraZeneca launched a $400 million investment in its global AZ Forest program in support of climate action and human health. Can you just tell us a little more about how you ensure that the benefits of that program go beyond climate mitigation, and also, picking up Domingo and I'm sure Hindou's points, build ecological and community resilience?
Yeah, thanks very much, Amelia. And I am going to speak loudly. I usually don't have any problem competing with other voices, and I'm going to stick to that today. And I am delighted that we have a gentleman on the panel with us as well. I'm also really delighted to be amongst powerful women using a powerful voice. So AstraZeneca, we made an announcement and a commitment, but importantly, taking action on a forest of 200 million trees in 6 continents. And you may be asking, why would a pharmaceutical company do that? And there are 3 really important reasons. One is that the connection between climate and health and nature must not be underestimated. So we need nature for strong health, both for our health today, but actually also to protect health tomorrow. Some of our discovery of pharmaceutical medicines actually comes from nature itself. So when we lose that, we lose tomorrow's ability to discover today's drugs. That's the first thing. Secondly, it's been key that all the work that we have done has been with local communities. Our forest investment is about creating meaningful livelihoods on the ground for communities. About 80,000 livelihoods, we estimate, are supported. And they're supported because as biodiversity flourishes, the economy, skills, and jobs locally flourish. The produce from the biodiversity investments become produce that create meaningful supply chains for others, thereby contributing to the Circular Bioeconomy Alliance, as Marc talked about. But they also provide valuable income for communities. I think the third thing that I would say is that it was a phrase that was used by one of the speakers, trust. You have to work with trust in local communities. You have to take action as big corporate that both builds the trust, but then makes sure that every single action you take ensures that that trust continues through the investments that you make, but the way in which you work. So those would probably be the big reasons I'd give Amelia.
Brilliant, thank you. Hélène, LVMH, clearly one of the world's leading, if not the world's leading luxury groups. How are you investing and working with your suppliers and your complex supply chain and value chains to align with the mission to become a nature-positive, net zero business? I mean, what are the major challenges you face in transforming value chains across your different businesses?
Thank you so much, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about nature and biodiversity. At LVMH, we are in an interdependent relationship with nature. All our products come from nature. And this link is not obvious. When you visit our stores, you look at our products, but not at rotten fields behind our bottles of perfumes, for example. This is why the first step of my task has been to increase awareness of this link. Over the past 2 years, we have made our employees aware of the importance of nature. This is what allowed me to implement a very ambitious biodiversity strategy with a clear objective. We must stop thinking of the human-nature relationship in terms of domination. We must thinking of it in terms of alliance. Alliance between nature and man, nature and art, nature and creativity, without one dominating the other. And to do that, we have set the goal of rehabilitating 5 million hectares in fauna and flora habitat by 2030. To do that, we have two methods. The first method, and Marc, you are right, transformation. Transformation within and inside our supply chain. We are trying to improve practices and in particular to develop regenerative agriculture, that is new agricultural practices that have the potential of reverse biodiversity loss, restore ecosystems, recover soil fertility, and store carbon. And we have a lot of initiatives to implement regenerative agriculture in our supply chain. For example, in Turkey, with cotton cultivation, all over the world, in Australia for regenerative wool. In France, we are working on a regenerative model for beet cultivation because we need beet for alcohol, for our perfumes. And of course, in our vineyards in France, we have introduced hedges and fruit trees to improve soil quality. And second method is about philanthropic giving, because I think philanthropic giving should focus more on combating biodiversity loss and climate crisis. That is what we are trying to do at LVMH. We are trying to increase the proportion of our philanthropic donations to environmental causes. For example, with UNESCO, we have launched a program to combat the causes of deforestation in the Amazon, and at COP27, we launched a new partnership with CBA to promote regenerative agriculture in cotton cultivation in Chad. We are working with cotton farmers to change practices, introducing new sustainable and regenerative methods of cotton production. And just 1 year, yes, 1 year after the launch of this partnership, concrete results have been achieved. For example, over 500 farmers have been identified and trained in 2 regions of Lake Chad. 12 hectares have been selected to serve as a living lab and training center, and the first crops of regenerative cotton will be harvested in 2024. And of course, to lead this transformation, we have a lot of challenges. And the first challenge is about measurement, because we need to be able to measure. But global measurement is not sufficient, because biodiversity impact is dependent on local geographical characteristics. That is why, to measure, we use KPIs such as soil fertility, carbon sequestration, biodiversity, water saving, local impact, farmers' livelihoods. And the second challenge is about scale up, because to scale up, we need we need to mobilize our suppliers, and I think to move from a client-supplier relationship to a partner relationship. And this acceleration needed also to joining forces. I think it's absolutely crucial to work with our peers via coalitions, via new initiatives, to bring together our forces. We are, for example, member of several networks and working groups, OP2B, SBTN, TNFD, and of course, CBA, because to accelerate, we need CBA, we need joining forces. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hubert, this year Lombard Odier launched Holistic, which is aims to an investment partnership that aims to scale up private capital towards nature-based solutions in the circular bioeconomy value chains. How do we scale from projects to funds, from philanthropy to finance, and from landscapes to markets? And if I could ask you 2 questions. How does holistic, or can holistic, and how can the finance industry generally address the needed, the challenges that have been mentioned by Juliette and Hélène, and provide the investment needed to accelerate the transition to a nature-positive and net-zero economy? Because private capital really, right now, doesn't represent a large amount of the total.
So not only I'm the minority on stage, but I'm also the one that needs to speak about where the money is.
I could do that if you want.
So I think I think the challenge for nature-based investment, of course, is to now scale up and mobilize private capital. I think it's important also to always keep in mind that, of course, private capital starts to be mobilized when there is a strong and solid investment case. Now, I think around nature, so far, the investment case has very much been centered around the voluntary carbon market, nature-based solution and voluntary carbon market. And I think there have been many hopes that this market could scale. We are a little bit more, perhaps, cautious about some of these hopes because, as Marc has very clearly outlined earlier on, the carbon market is basically about compensation, and it isn't really about mitigation. And I think as corporates are really trying to get on the plan of decarbonizing their business and moving towards a nature-positive business model, they're going to be investing these abatement investments or these abatement funds into, primarily into mitigation. So I think the real question which we need to ask ourselves around nature and the opportunity to invest in nature is really, like with the energy transition, are there new or emerging economic systems that are powered by nature which will outcompete existing economic systems? The reason why electrification of the economy is moving at speed and scale right now is not so much because everybody wants to deploy capital in it. It is because it is a better economic system, it's more efficient, it's more affordable, it's scalable, and therefore the electrification of the economy is now moving at speed and scale. And I think the question is, how do we repeat that for nature? So the first question is, what could be the economic systems today powered by nature that could outcompete? And then the question is, when we do find them and when they do emerge, how do we finance the transition? And so where we are spending a lot of time with, of course, the CBA and also other partners is around the topic of nature-based commodities. So if we think about some really important commodities such as, indeed, cotton, but we can also move into coffee, into cacao, into cosmetics. These are effectively very important consumer commodities sourced in nature. And there is an opportunity to effectively move from an inefficient monoculture model into an agroforestry regenerative model. And when we do that, we actually end up with a better economic systems to produce coffee, cotton, cacao, cosmetics, and a few others. And that's the important point. So if we take, for example, coffee, a regenerative agroforestry model will get you a more resilient system or production system. It will lower your input cost, so it will be more economical. It will increase the life or the duration of your culture. It will probably produce a crop of similar or better quality, and that, of course, is important. And very, very importantly, it will deliver probably the same yield, if not better. So effectively, it is as scalable as the existing solution. And last but not least, which is extremely important today, a regenerative agroforestry model will effectively deliver carbon sequestering crop as opposed to a carbon emitting crop, which is currently the case under the current monoculture system. So there is a better economic system to produce these commodities, and then the question is how to finance it. it is probably, we can't expect the big consumer-facing companies to finance it, which is unfortunate because this is where most of the capital is sitting today. And the reason for that is because it's probably too far upstream in their value chain. But what we can do is expect financial investors to basically come in as the investment case starts to look really interesting. And how do we develop a solid investment case for financial investors to step in at scale? Well, if it is a better economic system, then effectively return will be generated. Return will be generated through an agroforestry model through two ways, or in three ways. First, through land appreciation, because effectively it creates value for the land. And secondly, from visibility of cash flows, particularly if a large consumer company is willing to effectively play the game and insert itself as a real commodity off-taker. So my point is, if I can just summarize it, there is capital available. There is capital ready to be deployed at scale into nature, but it has to be to economic systems that are going to outcompete existing one, and that eventually are creating the basis of a strong investment case.
Thank you. I think the question there is how fast. Transform. No, I'm not. I don't want you to answer. I'm just saying I think there's a question for all of us about if we're talking about transformation, how quickly that can be. We might come back to that at the end. Yunwen, I'd like to get your perspective. You've been actively involved in research on climate, investment, and financing, as well as natural capital. You're leading the Task Force on Biodiversity Finance, which is part of the Green Finance Committee of China, Society of Finance and Banking. China is in many respects the factory of the world. So a shift in the global economy cannot happen without the commitment and leadership of China. So how do you see work to accelerate nature finance happening in China? And if I could, you get 2 bites at the cherry as well. But how have you created partnerships, which is a bit where Hubert was going as well, with financial institutions that have encouraged them to engage with nature-focused projects and ensured multi-stakeholder participation?
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, the first 3 speakers already mentioned the important things, which is ecosystem services. Is a crucial link between the business and nature. So I want to touch upon these issues from 2 ends regarding the financial sector engaging these issues. Firstly, it's very crucial to make financial institutions fully understand the impact of finance on the provision of the key ecosystem services and the consequences of biodiversity losses for the financial stabilities. Like climate change, biodiversity loss pose a financial risk to both business and the financial institution. This risk can be categorized as a physical risk and a transition risk. Physical risks are more straightforward to understand. If ecosystem services vanish, the financial activities are affected. On the other hand, the policy and the market are gradually moving to more sustainable and nature-friendly approaches. So business and the investor have to deal with increasingly strict conservation policy and measures. So they have to face the challenges associated with this transition. For example, in China, the area with important ecological function may be designated as a nature ecological protection red line. In such cases, the business previously operating in this area may be forced to relocate, and the banks might not be able to recover their loans. If a firm can identify the dependency and the impact of their asset on ecosystem and nature and address it, they can prevent risk associated with biodiversity loss, and also in turn, turn this risk into business opportunities. Also hear from the first 3 speakers. And to understand and address this sometimes require conducting biodiversity-related scenario analysis and stress testing. Biodiversity projects also have a strong ecological external benefit, but may lack short-term financial return, and their business model sometimes are not clear. As a result, financial institutions always struggle to identify and accurately price this risk. So this led my second point I want to address, which is to enhance the profitability of biodiversity protection projects. And I think these efforts should be done by the different stakeholders. And our previous work, working a lot with the central bank and the financial supervisors. Firstly, to define the clear standards for biodiversity-friendly projects to guide financial institutions in investing in this field. This can also help investors to find these projects with less cost, because first you have to let investors to know which kind of the projects are nature positive. And also this way can avoid greenwashing and increase market transparency. Secondly, to develop a range of innovative financial products, including not only the green loan, but also the products that can meet different project durations, such as bonds or the de-risking, etc. Recent year, several Chinese banks has attempted various innovations using ecological risk as a collateral to enhance credits of their clients and the financial project. For example, they use credit generated by ecological carbon sequestration, such as forest and wetland. And thirdly, there is also the strong need for disclosure requirements to address information asymmetry, disclosing both sides, risk and opportunity. And furthermore, we need to design the incentive mechanism to complement those financial institutions who do the good. For instance, central bank can develop the monetary policy tools, such as interest subsidy and or guarantee, to offer the low-cost funding for biodiversity-friendly projects, or incorporating the performance of nature-positive lending into MPA, which is a macro-prudential assessment. In doing so, the financial institution will be encouraged to contribute financing the biodiversity conservation projects. I will stop here. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Hindou, I've saved you for last for a particular reason. All good. Your perspectives as an expert in adaptation and mitigation in Africa, which is obviously a continent that is suffering most from the impact of climate change, and a leader, clearly, of indigenous peoples. And the reason I've saved you for last is I'd be interested in, as you think through the questions I'm going to ask, you've heard, let me put it a different way. As Domingo said, and as we are doing on the biodiversity panel, the panel on biodiversity credits, indigenous peoples and local communities must be at the heart of all of these initiatives, not as a tag-along, but at the table, at the center, equal partners in how we develop these markets and these projects. So how do we ensure, from your perspective, that corporations and banks engage through the right partnerships with indigenous people, and how do we ensure that the transformation to a circular bioeconomy benefits the indigenous peoples who are the key custodians of nature and from whom we have to learn a great deal?
Well, thank you. Sometimes they say when you speak at the last, everyone say everything. But it's really nice today to speak last. The reason is I wake up at 6. I sleep at 3. So I wake up at 6. You can imagine how much I'm very tired, and I assume all of you are very tired there. So, speaking of the last, is give me the idea about what we are going to talk about in this panel. Because I get so many panels, I still have 2 before going to sleep. So, that said, hearing from you all, you are doing a fantastic job. You are counting billions. You are saving maybe many lives, but you are doing it maybe in your way. Indigenous people's way is differently. And our way is the real circular economy, because we are not thinking about nature as commodity, how we can get more revenue and more revenue and more revenue by changing just like one thing that can give us more revenue on something else. We are thinking circularly, as nature is our home. It is the place we can get our food, a supermarket. It is our pharmacy. Indigenous communities that are coming around all the rural area, most of them didn't get vaccine to Pfizer, but they didn't get also COVID, because nature is our best alliance. So how you can learn from us, how you can develop your circular economy on cosmetic or in whatever you call it, carbon market, or you call it nature-based solutions, how you can learn from our way of living. And let me tell you how we do that. I put it in your word because you are the one who talk about we need integrity on carbon market. So what is the integrity? The integrity must be an indigenous peoples led from the thinking to the designing, then maybe the implementation, if it's work. This is the first integrity you should all have in the mind. Because, not because you got funding that you have to decide on you have to go in this place, do a project, or oh, those communities are poor, maybe we can support them, and then we can do these activities for them. No. Those communities are richer than you. Maybe they are not counting million in the bank account, but they have the knowledge from the ancestor that can protect all the environment for thousands of years. And those do not have value. So how you can value that? By giving them the right to decide on how you can design the project they want. Another integrity you should put is a right-based approach. The nature, you cannot cut every places and say, oh, this is a potential, let's do that. No, the integrity is you have to respect the right of those peoples, of those land. If we protect it, we didn't touch it, we are fighting as front line. We are getting killed because we are protecting our land. Not we don't want to have this money, because we know if you destroy this environment, you are destroying all the world. We know how the connection of every ecosystem. So your integrity must respect the rights of the communities. They say no, you stop. The free, prior, and informed consent. Thirdly, if you are doing that, what is the benefit of the communities? Access and benefit sharing. I give just a simple example. When we go to a community and we have either the incense for the cosmetic, or the cotton or fiber for the fashion, or just a medicinal plant for a medicine, how much those communities are getting back? Are they getting maybe immediately? And you are getting the profit for the long term, and you go make the intellectual property rights. So that must change. The intellectual property right must go to the community who own those resources, and the access and benefit sharing must be designed by those communities. So it's not being more rich, but being equitable, being just, sharing, including. And finally, I really like what Marc is doing, because, not because he invited me. People who know me, like, I don't care. You invite me, I tell you if you are not right. But I celebrate you when you are right. So I'm celebrating him because he set up a consultation with indigenous peoples. Doesn't matter how long it takes. All its matter is coming in the same ground before it starts any business. So this is the most important. Think about what you want, but think more about what we want, because we are the guardian of the nature. We are the guardian of the ecosystem. We are the engineer of each ecosystem of our land. You can go to my brother Domingo's land. He knows it better than you. You can get any master or any PhD. You will never understand all his land than he understood that. So use us as partners, not as beneficiaries. Don't call yourself donors, and we are recipients. We refuse that. We are partners. We are ecological partners. You are funding partners. And partners sit together, decide together, implement together. And then that's how it's become circular way. So think about how you are designing and how we can have a circular economy moving from fossil fuel economy to the bioeconomy. So bioeconomy must respect peoples, nature, fight climate change, protect biodiversity, not for 2050, 2030, but for 7 upcoming generations. That must guide your decision. Your action of today must be seen in a better way for the next 7 generations as what indigenous peoples does. We never think about 2050. We think about 7 generations coming here. Thank you.
So, my mother said, never follow a tenor. To which I would say, never follow Hindou. But your powerful message about partnership, the essential nature of partnership, and in that partnership, learning to leverage a millennia of experience is so true. So we have a few minutes for a few questions. If anybody has any questions for the panel, I see one in the back. Please, can someone get her a mic?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Habiba Hamza Ahmad. I'm from Nigeria. I'm happy that I met Hindou today. So Hindou, I'm happy I met you. To the all, and I'm greeting all the finalists and everybody here. My question is, I'm from developing country, and I've been doing a lot of projects with women in some localities. So I just realized in one state in Nigeria, there's a new market of, we call it zobo, hibiscus. So the whole locality, because most of the people in the local, they don't understand what is climate change. I was here yesterday. So they were selling this hibiscus, because before, you can buy the whole of the bag, let's say $2. But now you can buy like a pinch, like $10, because the Chinese, the Mexicans are buying it from the communities. So as Hindou said, what can you do? Because they are just getting the money now, and everybody is selling it, and everybody is doing it. And at the end of the day, we need a partnership, just as she said. So the Chinese, because most of the people that are buying are from China, what partnership can you give to places in the northwest Nigeria, like Katsina? They're selling a lot of things like that, so that they're going to be continuity. Thank you.
Habiba, thank you so much from what you said. You give just like a little examples of the bigger problem in Africa. So all the people, especially who wanted to buy the products, they wanted to get the cheaper one and go make more profit. So I think the best way is how we can stand up all help those women to transform the product themselves, to make the marketing that the others are doing, and how the others can understand the unique way of growing food or of transforming food in Africa. You go to the developed countries, you have to be privileged, rich, before to buy an organic products. You go to Africa, you have to be privileged, rich, before to buy the chemical food that is coming from Europe or from whatever big countries. You want to have the healthy food in Africa, go to the rural area, go to the women that you said, you eat healthier. So how we can change this paradox, and then we can value what they are doing, not that to make the local people buy expensive, but valuing that they can get more revenue to mitigate the differences that you said. So the market must change. We talked with Domingo in just a panel before we come here, how the financial system can change, how the market system can change to be designed differently. We don't want this system who excluded the developing country in general and marginalize the indigenous peoples and peoples who are living in rural areas, because those markets are not designed with us. They design it for us to make us more poor and then get more revenue. So we must change that. You and me and other peoples who are working with us, we must do that. And I think you must help us doing that.
Thank you. Very good point. We have time for one more question. No, one more?
Yes, thank you. I'm Wendy Arenas. I'm from Colombia. I work with Alisos in the Amazon region. And one of the questions that have arisen to us is veterinary solutions, if they need to meet financial interest and lower risk, we always end up talking about commodities and large scale. And definitely commodities is not an option in the Amazon region. So I think there is a big question here in how are we going to resolve that? And how are we going to resolve the financial risk? And how are we going to think differently than scaling up? Because definitely scaling up in a commodity kind of state of mind will put at risk and will become a driver of deforestation. So it seems to me that we're changing one commodity for another one, a commodity that doesn't impact negatively, but still within the logic of scale and commodity. And I think that's a really profound question that we need to ask ourselves. Can we really think nature-based solution to protect forests when we're including a financial scale and responding to the financial needs?
So I'm going to give a quick answer, which is, I think you're wrong to say it has to be commoditized to be scaled. And I think that the trick we have to turn, and I don't have the answer, and I'm chairing a group that's trying to figure it out, is it's global. Whatever we do needs to be global and local. And the problem with nature is it's local. You cannot commoditize that. But it needs to be scaled and it needs to be done quickly. I don't have that, but I disagree with you. I don't think it needs to be commoditized to be scaled. I think there's something about how you create a market that enables actors to act in a way where they're willing to have the confidence in the market to deal at scale in the projects, et cetera, that they're doing. But Hubert, do you want to add anything? No. Okay. We've got to go. Okay, quickly. 1-2 questions, and then I'm going to make a few remarks, and then we're done.
Thank you. I'm Yunwen from Malaysia. There's a lot of deforestation that has been going on. I would like to get your indigenous people's view on developing tree plantations on these deforested and degraded land and producing wood pellets out of these plantations for renewable energy. What do you think about this circular idea?
Can we take?
Let's take the second one. Yep.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. My name is Rose Kopsinge, and here as NGPTA, we are part of one of the CBA Circular Bioeconomy Alliance projects in Ghana, and the project is focusing on restoring landscapes over almost 8,000 hectares of land, 6 million trees that is supported by AstraZeneca. But in that project in Ghana, we are taking an approach of combining natural forest restoration and agroforestry, but also boosting livelihoods. So that approach to me is one of the best approaches, but I wanted to ask the investors on the panel, how are you negotiating the need to catch up with, carbon credits, but also the need to boost the needs of the people at the grassroots, let's say livelihoods, green jobs? So how are you balancing that to make sure that while you're trying to achieve your carbon sink targets, you're also balancing the need for the people to get what they need? Thank you.
Do you want me to kick off? So firstly, to say thank you very much for your comments. I'll offer you a view and opinion, and I think you've summed it up beautifully. I think you have to balance, that's the word. You have to be able to meet both needs without meeting the needs of the local communities with the local communities, not assuming that you know best, but actually asking and respecting and working. It is a balance, and if you don't have one, you won't have the other. So it's just a very fine balance that you have to work through, and I think we can't assume that all communities' needs are the same. I think we can't assume that all locations are the same. We have to work with communities individually to find the balance that works for both and not make the assumptions. That's my biggest learning from sitting next to my colleague today. Let's not make assumptions.
I totally agree with your response to the second question. So to the first one, you say if you can do plant tree and do the renewable energy inside. So I don't know how this technology can work. I don't know if you wanted to put like a solar panel in the top of the tree, or if you wanted to do like an hydro under the tree. So I cannot tell you how the energy and the trees can work. But I can tell you when you replant the trees, you restore the land with the indigenous people's wisdom, because it is not every tree is tree, every leaf is a leaf of tree. There are trees who can be medicinal. There are sacred trees. There are trees who can be a food. There are trees who can let their fruit to different kind of species, from the birds to the insect to the bigger animals, etc. So as indigenous peoples, we know how to restore this kind of trees. And you cannot grow tree overnight also like you get your tree tomorrow. So it is also a law, a process, a system. So we know this system. This is best than any technology that you can have. So if you have those kind of restoration of the land, I think it will help you to get your clean energy very easily. Because you restore this land, the ecosystem will come back, you can get the water, you can get your small scale hydro, and you can prevent all the need of the energy that you are going to commit like as emissions. Can mitigate, you can find the balance. So don't think about all the geoengineering thinking maybe it can fix. Nature is the best one who can fix the problem of the nature.
Thank you. So let me just take another crack at your question, which yes, you're right with the different different aspects of what goes into products and financial products. Your question was spot on. Okay, there is a need for a new transformative model that is a model of high integrity. That means that all the questions you've raised quite properly in the new financing paradigm and the new business paradigm have to take into account the things that you are dealing with. It will not be easy. It has not been done before. We saw what happened with the carbon markets. It has to be done now. So I would encourage you to engage with the panel on biodiversity credits, because this is exactly your input, Hindou's input, and the kinds of balance that Juliette raised are the things that we absolutely have to take into account. So let me just close by thanking our panel for being with us this afternoon and thanking you. Can we give our panel a round of applause? And now I'm going to scream because I think there's someone even louder than me next door. So here you go. As we've heard today, the CBA's created a unique global network of living labs for nature, people, and planet to showcase how we can restore degraded landscapes while creating long-term economic opportunities for local communities and supporting sustainable markets. The CBA is now a formal UK charity with the invaluable support from these founding members, Lombard, Odier, LVMH, and AstraZeneca, all of whom have shown visionary leadership in facilitating this new platform and without whom we would not be standing here today. A platform where we can pilot, test, and build new partnerships that'll contribute to redefining their future businesses in relation to nature and the communities that protect it and steward it. So in order to scale this transformative action on the ground, we do need more partners, here comes the cell, public and private, to get behind our vision of a circular bioeconomy which works for people, nature, and planet. So please do come and talk to me and to Marc. We'd be delighted to talk to you. And in the meantime, taking a leaf out of Marc's book, may I close with the rallying cry for transformative action that King Charles III mentioned yesterday, and I'm going to quote him in full. We need to remember that the indigenous worldview teaches us all that we are all connected, not only as human beings, but with all living beings and all that sustains life. As part of this grand and sacred system, harmony with nature must be maintained. The earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth. So thank you again. Thank you to my panelists. You're now warmly invited to join us. Give us a few minutes to move the chairs, and then we'll have a drink together.